I more or less just did the plastic gauge just so you guys could see how it works. It's nice to know that we got some nice tight bearing tolerances, and it's gonna have good oil control. Because it's such a rare 1 year only engine, he did not want me to let the engine out of my sight. Let's put the crank in this engine. Also, I don't use some fancy assembly lube. 530 Schaefer synthetic in that little oil can that you just saw me oil these with. The whole engine's gonna get pre-lubed anyway before it gets started up. I'll spin the oil pump drive with a drill. I have the tool, and it'll fully oil the whole engine before it even gets started up. So this engine that I just repaired the thrust on in a previous video, when I took the oil pan off, it was just full of gunk, and that gunk was all the assembly lube. Goes to the bottom, sits in the pan. I do use assembly lube on the cam lobes, but as far as bearings, I just use oil, and I've never had a problem with that in 40 years. Oh, the other thing is make sure that you have your rear main seals in, and make sure that the lip of the seal is facing in. Make sure this isn't facing towards the outside of the engine. The oil is going to come from this direction against the inside of this lip on this seal. So make sure you got both halves of your rear main seal in there, and make sure it's in correctly and not in backwards. It is possible to put that in backwards, and you don't want that. So we are going to carefully lay this crank in there. And there we go. We're going to put a little more oil on it. I'm going to oil these thrust surfaces on this main bearing. Get some oil on the crank. Just make sure that everything's nice and lubed up. Normally the cam would go in first, but this is the block that I did the cam bearing video on. We already slipped the cam in and out, so we know the cam is gonna fit. The bearings are in square and everything's happy. But yeah, normally I would put the cam in first. And the reason I didn't put the cam in first is because I don't have it yet. Now we're gonna oil these main bearings up. I'm not gonna put the rear main on yet because I gotta do a couple little things with sealant. The rear main bearing cap is just bolted onto the block, and it's metal to metal. So this surface area right here, that's just metal to metal against the block. And if you don't put a little bit of sealant, just a minimal amount though, this will leak, or it can leak. And then I even just barely put it on the butt end of the seal. So my rear main seals are actually sealed together. The two halves, I do seal them to each other. Sometimes it's hard to see the arrow, you know, which direction the cap goes facing forward. See this little bearing tang right here? You just match that to the block. It's the same in the block. Both halves have that. As long as you've got tang to tang in the block, you're good to go. I got this thing lubed, and I got my minimal amount of sealant on those cap ends so that it doesn't leak oil. So on it goes. I've already put the other ones on. Some people stagger the rear main seal. You can do that. That's not a bad idea, but it's either gonna seal or it isn't. And I've never had a problem with them not sealing, even if you don't stagger the end a little bit. Just gonna do it the way I always do it. When you disassemble your engine, make sure that you number everything. You number the main caps, and you make sure you have all your arrows facing forward. And like I said, the bearing tangs, you got the tang of the bearing, and you just make sure that the tang bearing in the block is the tang side of your main cap, and that's how you'll know you're in the correct orientation. I'm gonna tighten that rear main cap up while that silicone is wet. I put a little bit of lube on my bolt head and thread on the underside of the head, so I get an accurate bolt torque. And you don't want to get too carried away though. Don't go putting a bunch of oil down in your bolt holes, because some of those bolt holes are blind. And if you got liquid in the hole and you start screwing the bolt in, you're gonna hydraulic the block. Lube the bolt threads, lube under the heads, so you get a good accurate bolt torque. Don't get carried away, just minimal, so that you don't have liquid in the hole that you're trying to thread your bolt into. So gonna recheck all of these to make sure. The other thing I do is I torque one cap at a time, and then I rotate the crank a little bit just to make sure that if something happens and the crank tightens up in the block, if you just tighten them all, you would never know which one did it. So move the crank, make sure it's free, tighten the next one, and so on. And then you got a free rotating crankshaft and you know everything's good. Talking about the rings here for a second. So since this engine was not bored, the cylinder walls, and this is a very exaggerated drawing, the cylinder walls have taper. This is my poor illustration of rings. So you got the taper at the top, and then when the piston travels down and it changes direction, you're gonna have a little bit of a bowl at the bottom. So there's a few things going on here. If you have file fit rings, you need to put them far enough down in the cylinder that they're not in one of these two areas. Because if you file fit your rings up here or down here, when the ring gets up into this part, it's going to be too tight. It could butt, or it could be just way too tight. Personally, on a build like this, I don't even bother with file fit rings. It's not necessary. It's a huge time involvement. There are some things you need to check. Like, you need to make sure that the ring depth is correct. So we get the ring in there. I've actually seen guys with like racing engines that have different ring depths, and they had the wrong radial thickness. So this direction, the width of the ring, not the thickness, but the width. And the ring was too wide for the depth of their ring groove, and the engine did not make power at all. And I knew exactly what was wrong as soon as they tried to make the first pull on it. But basically, you want to make sure that the ring is not sticking out of the piston at all, and it's not. You need the ring groove to be deep enough that the ring can fully countersink into that piston. And then the other thing is, I don't use fancy rings. These are just cast rings, so they'll seat easy. Because again, this is not a board block with a perfect hone finish on it. And you can see my video, the previous one that I did on honing this block and what my procedure is for getting that done. But yeah, check your ring depth. Make sure the ring depth is right for the piston, because these are aftermarket pistons. And if you do have to file fit, do not file fit in the bowl down here or up in the taper at the very top, because your ring gap is not going to be right. These rings need to be installed in an order. So oil ring goes on first. All this thing is a spring. All this does is it springs out and expands the two oil scraper rings, which are these guys right here. I don't know that it matters, but where this ring ends, I always put these facing up. It probably doesn't matter. You could probably have them face down, and they need to be butted. So I always make sure that when I put this ring on, I start it over here and I go over the butted part first. So it kind of holds that thing. So the spring doesn't try to pop out on me right here and overlap itself. So I'll pull this one around, and I have the butt of the spring here. I have the gap of the lower half of the oil ring 90 degrees away. And then I'm going to put it 90 degrees away in the other direction. So that the two oil scraper rings are roughly 180 away from each other. And then on the second ring, read your instructions, because every ring package has a different set of instructions. Like this one here, it says top right here. So that faces up, and then you're not going to be able to see it. Maybe you can, but the inside edge of this ring is beveled. If there's a bevel on the inside of the ring, on the second ring, the bevel always goes down. In this case, it's marked, it says top, so I know where this ring goes. A little hard to do on camera, but you just get it started and work your way around. Don't scratch the piston. And they'll go in pretty easy for you. So there's number 2 in. The top rings are not marked. But if there's a bevel on the inside edge of the ring, if this area here is beveled, on the top ring that faces up. And the reason is because the combustion gases, they go down the side of the piston, they hit the ring, and they go inside the groove, and that actually pushes out on the ring. So you want the bevel facing down, if there is one, on the second ring, and you want it facing up on the top ring. But this top ring does not have a mark or a bevel, and according to the instructions, it can go on either way. There is no top or bottom. Stagger your gaps on your oil ring and stagger your gaps on your 2 top rings. We're gonna start putting a piston and rod assembly in. Always check your bearing and make sure that they're not misboxed. We're gonna slip these into the rod. Make sure that your rod and the cap are dry. I've seen guys oil this. I don't know why you would want oil on the backside of the bearing, but you do not want to promote bearing spin. You want that bearing to go in that rod and that rod cap as dry as can be so that they don't spin. I have the little blue things. I'm going to use these because, again, this is least fancy tools possible so that anybody can do this. This is 530 synthetic oil. It's not some fancy break-in oil or whatever. This oil has a rust inhibitor. All motor oil does, and break-in oil does not. You watched Steve Morris's channel, some pretty disastrous engine stuff happened because break-in oil got left in an engine, and it was a long time before that engine ended up getting used, and it was completely rusty inside. It destroyed the thing. Same thing, nothing fancy. I use the same oil. If you've watched my previous videos, whatever I am going to run in the car, that is what it's getting assembled with. There's no assembly lube or some special oil or whatever. It's going to get the exact same stuff that it's going to run on. So just oil it with what you're going to run. I've had people ask me what my ring compressor is. Well, not to disappoint, this is it. And there is a top and a bottom to this thing. These little bumps out all the way around, that's so that the compressor doesn't try to go into the cylinder with the piston. But I don't have those fancy tapered ones because there's so many different bores. And again, this channel is catering to the average guy that doesn't do this for a living and has, you know, millions of dollars worth of tools and all kinds of other stuff. So we're just gonna put our ring compressor on here. We got our little pieces of rubber hose to protect the crankshaft from the rod bolts. And that is a must, by the way. Do not try to put the piston in without, I'm just kind of squaring the ring compressor up. Don't try to put the piston in without protecting the rod bolts, or I guarantee you'll nick your crank. It's 100%. So don't do that. All right, the rings are gapped, spaced the way they're supposed to be. We got our rod bearing in and it's oiled. Bolts are protected, compressor on. We checked everything. And then I rotate the block to a nice comfortable position. Make sure you rotate the crank. I put it so that the piston will be all the way down in the hole and the crank is out of the way, centered in the hole so that the rod bolts will go on either side of the crank. Don't have your crank like that or like that and try to knock your piston in the hole. Make sure the crank's centered. Now we got bearing tang. See the bearing tang right there, and see how this side is just smooth. This always faces out. So it's gonna go in like this, and the arrow on the piston will be facing forward. So you can't just put them in on either side. There's 4 for the right bank and there's 4 for the left bank. And if you put them in wrong, your bearing tang is gonna be facing the wrong direction. The reason that's important is because there's a radius. See this? This side of the rod, it has a little bevel to it. This side of the rod has a lot of bevel to it. And that goes against the outside edge of each journal. So if there's a little bit of a radius to your bearing journal on your crankshaft, this bevel clears that radius. You gotta orient your rods in the correct way to avoid running into issues. And that is a big issue, or it can be. So anyway, that's how easy it is to knock that piston in the hole. So I'm gonna shove the piston in, and the 2 rod bolt, the rubber hose extensions, kind of, if you look down there, you can see those hoses kind of nicely help guide the rod right onto the crankshaft. And we're just gonna tap that in. You just heard it hit. So the rod is on the journal now. We're gonna flip this over. The beveled part of the rod, right there, that bevel, and see how the rod on this side is just flat? You want this bevel right here against the edge of the journal. So the bevel always goes towards this and towards that. So that's why there's a left and a right. Because for this rod to work in this position in number 2, the rod would have to be flipped around and then the arrow would be pointing in the wrong direction on the piston. So when you hang the pistons on the rods, you got to make sure you do 4 lefts and 4 rights. And the bevel of the rod, the bearing tang right here is facing outside towards the pan rail, right? Towards the outside of the engine. And the bevel is against the edge of the journal. So we're just gonna pull these off. Let's just throw a piece of plastic gauge on there. Again, you just go tang to tang. So the bearing tang on this needs to line up with the bearing tang on that. That's how you know you got it on in the correct orientation. We're gonna torque this thing. I just wanna make sure we're good on one rod, because again, nothing was bad or torn up or blown up. It was just worn out. I'll pull a little torque into these rod bolts. Rod cap is back off. You can see the plastic gauge. It's right there. It's kind of hard to see, actually. They're between about 1.5 to 2 thousandths. You can't really complain about that. Again, your main bearings are what control your oil pressure. If you have a nice tight main bearing, you're gonna have very good oil pressure at idle when the engine's hot. If your main bearings are loose, your oil pressure gauge is going to look like a tack. When you rev it up, the gauge is going to go up, and when it idles, it's going to go way down. 1.5 to 2 thousandths on these rods. That's why this thing ran so good before. Really good oil pressure with a stock pump, which is another subject. I do not run high volume pumps in anything. When I race circle track, I had a standard pump in it, because I don't want the pan to be sucked dry. And especially on a street car, I do not run high volume. Even the race car, the dry sump is turned all the way down. If I could make it go even lower, I would. Don't need oil pressure so high that you're just sucking your pan dry. Just make sure that the bearing tangs in the cap are lined up with the bearing tangs in the rod, and the bevel of the edge of the rod has this bevel that it faces the edge of the journal, the crank journal, that it's not facing in towards the center of the journal. Give it a little torque action here. And for people that think I was torquing these with that gun, I was not at all, just spinning them on. So let's make sure we're torqued. And then the other thing that I do, make sure your stuff rotates after each rod and piston assembly gets installed.